Okay, morning everybody. Thanks for joining. I'll do my first introduction. So, Paul Gibbons, work in the consultants team, worked for Chess for coming up to 7 years. I worked in the industry for 34 years. Why, I don't know sometimes, but I think the big thing for me is you can never stop learning with IT. It never stands still. And I think more importantly with stuff like this is pretty new and it's what I call sexy, because I got bored with the network. The network was just a thing. It serves a purpose, but it did become boring after so many years. So this has given it a new lease of life to me. So I'm quite passionate about it, to be honest. John?
Yeah, morning guys. Hopefully you can hear me at the back. So Jon Smith, I look after go-to-market and field sales for a part of Cisco's portfolio that sits on the Meraki cloud platform, focused on smart cameras and IoT or connected sensors, which form part of what we're going to talk today about, which is smart workplaces.
Thank you very much, John. Sorry, wrong way. Needs some training, I think. Can I start with a show of hands? Who actually has adopted the work from home? Okay, good start. Who still goes into the office though? Who's still, every day, or do you just on
2 or 3 days a week?
So you blend it. So you're doing the hybrid. Yeah, okay. Brilliant. It's a good start. So, me personally, I absolutely detest sitting in traffic. I don't know whether it's my age, but I have no tolerance anymore. I was screaming at the wife this morning because I was running late, because every single road I hit seemed to just drag me down. I only live in Wigan, and yet it took me 2 hours to get into Manchester. You couldn't make it up. So all it does consistently is remind me that working from home is more productive and definitely less stressful. And I think the other thing as well is, if I have to go into the office, there has to be a really compelling reason why I go in the office. So it's either to do a presentation, it's either to collaborate and have that mind-sharing experience. But to me, the office, I won't just go into an office if it's the old traditional style office environment. And I think that's the biggest concept change that we've got, is there has to be some excitement, and it has to be made in such a way that it gives you that energy to go in and persevere with the traffic. So these are the standard questions that we're seeing constantly, is how do we reimagine that office space? How do we create something that's quite, I regard it as sexy, and we've got one that we're going to talk about in a little bit of when I went to Cisco and really bought into this. So what do we mean by smart spaces? Now, this is the next show of hands. Who actually uses tech at home that is in effect smart? So, I'm going to say nearly everybody. So I'm riddled with it. I mean, I can't remember the last time I went onto the app to ask it to play music, because I just walk in a room and say, play something that will relax me, or anything like that. We do not ever seem to tap it. I've had a bad experience because we've got a fridge freezer that's an LG. It's really clever, but what it does is you take something out, you put it back in, you take it out. If you don't put it back in, it works out that you haven't put it back in, and it puts it into your shopping basket. Hey, that's absolutely fantastic. Till somebody hacks you and then orders lots more things in that basket than you anticipated. The wife doesn't check it, she orders it. Tesco van turns up, and it's full of about £600 worth of stuff that we'll never use. So that's my world, and that's the smart aspect. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. The thing is, this is at home, and we all seem to adopt it, but in the workplace, from what I'm seeing generally, very little of that type of technology is in the environment that we go into. Okay, so I'm going to hand you over to Cisco's point of view on this, because, like I say, I've seen this firsthand. I got sold into this about, I think it was year before last. I went into one of their offices, and it was brilliant. And I'll talk about it in a little bit. But I'll hand over to John, and he can give you the spin on Cisco's.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. You might need to give me directions. Okay. So look, what do we mean by a smart workspace? Well, I did what other people do. I Googled it to see what the definition was. I looked at ChatGPT, and this is what it came back with. A smart workspace refers to a modern, technology-enhanced environment designed to optimize productivity, collaboration, and comfort for employees and visitors. It leverages digital tools, sensors, and automation to create a more efficient and adaptable workplace. I think that pretty much sums it up. You ask different tools, it comes back with something very similar, right? So over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to go through and explain what Cisco and Cisco Meraki are delivering to the market to assist in the smart workspace. And then Paul and I will expand on some of the industry use cases and answer questions at the end of it. Okay. So look, for centuries, buildings haven't really changed, right? We've got architects to design beautiful looking buildings. We've got designers to design the interior of them. You know, we've developed new products to build them from, new methods to build them with. And we've put lots and lots of services into those buildings, mechanical and electrical services. So from cabling systems to heating, ventilation, air conditioning, fire detection and suppression systems, security systems, CCTV, access control, intruder. And we've adopted different monitoring and management platforms to keep them going. What we've failed to do is find a real connection between the building and the people who use it. And so what we're looking at is the way in which we can embrace technology to bridge that gap between the two. Okay. So in essence, a smart workspace allows us to take advantage of the efficiencies, automation, and intelligence that's possible through the digitization of that building. Okay. If I think about the environment I go into, I'm a home worker, a bit like Paul, but I go into the office 2 or 3 times a week. I'll generally go in there to speak to customers or bring customers in. But I think about what I have in the office. You know, first of all, I have pervasive connectivity and communication in the building. I have intelligent meeting spaces, smart collaboration hubs. I have the building detects changes in the environment. So we're able to change things like heating, lighting, ventilation. We have sensors within the building that understand lighting levels, noise, ambient noise, and we can make changes to the environment to make it a comfortable place to work. It's quite difficult because these platforms, all of these services that go into these buildings sit generally on separate infrastructure. You know, we have separate switched infrastructure for physical security versus IT. And how do we bring those things together? And that's really where the power of Cisco, the power of the network, and the power of the platform really come in. It's being able to aggregate all of these different technologies into a single, scalable, secure, and intelligent platform. Now, you may have seen this, and for anyone who's in the know, Cisco's going through a rebranding as they bring together the traditional enterprise networking business and the Meraki business, and we're now going to be called Cisco Cloud, I think, Cisco Cloud Networking. So you may see the Meraki identity disappear over time, but essentially we're talking about a single platform that allows us to connect both IT and OT onto the same physical infrastructure to be able to differentiate users and roles based on the service that they need to access, and to provide a single interface for management. The cloud itself, for anyone who has been following Meraki for the last decade or so, this thing is eye-wateringly big. Yeah, over 200,000 unique customers, over 4 million unique networks on there, billions of API calls going into the platform every week. And we've made it open and extendable. So a lot of the technologies that we can talk about in a smart workplace aren't necessarily delivered by Cisco. What we do is we give you the capabilities to be able to bring those products onto the network, to be able to manage them, and to be able to have interaction with them using extendable APIs. I said it's not just a Meraki thing. I work within the Meraki business unit. I look after the smart cameras and the sensor portfolio. But when we look at, or when I look at the environment that I go into, and Paul, you've been into them yourself. You know, we've got WebEx endpoints in our meeting rooms. I've even got one at home. It's made the experience of working from home, it's transformative, having a WebEx endpoint at home, but having the tools within the meeting rooms to provide one-click meetings, to have immersive meeting experiences and inclusive for people who are coming from the outside, for us to be able to do dynamic whiteboarding within the meeting, being able to use AI, to be able to summarize meeting notes and meeting actions, and to be able to use some of the sensors that are embedded within the endpoints to understand occupancy of meeting rooms. If you want to upload your corporate photo to the WebEx platform, it will also identify you using facial rec. Cisco's technologies allow third-party sensors as well to connect. So using protocols like Zigbee, we can take third-party sensors and we can take that telemetry data and push it into either Cisco Spaces or third-party platforms. Now, I don't know, does anyone use or seen Cisco Spaces? No. So Cisco Spaces is the, if you like, the visualization. It's a data platform that allows us to visualize the physical environment. So it will take telemetry data from WebEx endpoints, it will take it from sensors, it will take it from cameras, it will take it from Wi-Fi devices, and you'll be able to see on interactive maps, you know, the occupancy of a building, meeting rooms that are vacant or booked. It's an embedded piece of software within the DNA licensing of Cisco. And this is really where the use case comes. And Paul, you were in Amsterdam, I believe, last year.
That's what sold me into it. So I kept going into the reception area to make calls, and it was fine at one stage, but then it got really busy. So the receptionist says, "Why don't you just book a room?" And I thought, well, yeah, that's probably going to be problematic, but I'll give it a go. So she says, right, go on this app, book the room. You see the rooms, book the room, and she says, and it'd be a lot easier for you. So I went on the app, I saw all these pods, they were all little rooms and everything, and I went on and I said, right, I want it at 2 o'clock. It then says, are you using WebEx, Teams, or Zoom? And I said, oh, Teams. So then it said, it asked me another question as well. I'm sure it was temperature-wise, what was my preference? And I thought, I don't really care as long as it's ambient. So I clicked on it. It then sent me a QR code. And then it said 15 minutes before, it said you need to set off now. So it knew where this hub was, and it showed me a location of it. So I followed it, went to this hub, and there were loads of them there. They were like little cattle stalls. And I went to it, scanned the QR code, and it says, hang tight, just setting your room up. Lights came on, aircon kicked in, Teams came up. And then I went in, I put in my credentials, and off I went. And then at the end of it, I went back out, rescanned the code, all shut down. I wanted to book it again. For no reason. I had no meeting scheduled, and I just thought the whole experience was I want to book that again. And that was kind of the real, this is really interesting stuff, and I liked it. And it was the thing that was drawing me was, you know, I definitely wouldn't use that reception again. But that was one of the compelling reasons why I really started to look at this. And then when I did, that's when I opened up Pandora's box, and I found so many different user cases. And some of them are quite easy. So, do you want me to go through?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. So Cisco have, over the last, well, really since the pandemic, have gone through a process of consolidating offices, and I think Chess have done the same.
Yeah,
right?
we went from 7 to 1 with hubs, so yeah, we've done
so
exactly that.
we acquire lots of companies. Each of those companies generally have a footprint in major cities, and so there's a project to consolidate those offices. One, because they weren't being used as much; people weren't going into those offices. But we wanted to use it as a reason to embed this kind of technology into it. So not only did we design beautiful spaces with good collaboration facilities, but we embedded the technology into each one of those offices. One, because we want to use it, but secondly, we want to be able to showcase it to guests. Right?
I mean, I thought it was really cool, don't get me wrong. That was the thing that got me. But you imagine all those rooms and the fact that they're only being utilised when they need to be utilised, and then they're shut down when they're not. I bet their power costs dropped significantly for that. And I think you've got a certificate as well now that you're not green. What is it? There's another one that's a good one to have. But that's how you get these things. You know, smart technology enables you to get them a lot easier. Okay, so what are some typical user cases? So you can go from one side to the other. You can go for something that's really complex and it'll probably take about 1.5 years, 2 years to put in, without a doubt. Then there's others that I regard as pretty quick wins, and they do something that doesn't cost too much money at all. So prime example of this one. So we all know that vaping is a major issue in most places, but more in particular in schools. So when I was a kid, a long time ago, it was behind the bike shed. That's where you went to generally have your cigarette. Nowadays, they've locked all that down. They have got clever. They've put cameras there and that, so it's stopped it. However, vaping, it's harder to detect, it's harder to monitor, and it's going through the roof with the kids. So this is a great example of how you hit that full on, and it doesn't take much money and it doesn't take much time. So Cisco have got an MT14 sensor. So it's basically a very small sensor that you put into a toilet, and then you tune it so that it knows that it's a level of vaping. And as soon as it detects it, it sends a webhook to the faculty and says, block 2, boys' toilet, somebody's vaping. You can also set up the camera outside. You obviously can't put the camera in a toilet, but on the outside, there's a I can never remember the name of it, so you'll have to bear with me 2 seconds, sensor site. So you can tune the camera with the sensor site so it knows somebody's just vaped in the toilet. When they're coming out, it does a frame shot, and it also tags it to that emission sensor alert. So you can kind of tag it to when that happened, and hopefully who that is, or it might catch a couple of individuals coming out.
You're correlating the event pool, so you're taking a snapshot from the camera outside the toilet to coincide with the event that's been detected inside the toilet.
So not only are faculty trying to charge into the toilet and catch them red-handed, but if they don't, they still catch them because of this. And I imagine that's going to cut down most of schools once they get to know that they're going to get caught anyway. Your next one is, I won't use the name because for numerous reasons, but I wish one of the burger restaurants adopted this type of technology, because I never ever seem to want to go into a particular burger establishment and sit down. I'll always order out, and I'd rather sit outside because I think it's cleaner sometimes than being in the place. But this type of technology, again, it's absolutely fantastic because it detects how often a surface has been cleaned. When was the last time it was clean? When was the last time there was occupancy there? And it sends alerts and alarms, and it starts putting stuff like saying it was an hour ago, it was 2 hours ago, it was 30 minutes ago, and it meets that compliancy. I also think from a customer experience point of view, it's really good to know if they did this and you put it up and said, this is how we monitor and manage it, I think I'd probably go into the restaurant and sit down a lot more than I've ever done. Care home. Now, I think this is another superb one, because it's great having the panic alarms that run down the side, but if somebody's fallen and they're unconscious, then how the hell do they tell anybody until somebody comes round? So what this does is, using the cameras again, it detects that somebody slipped or fallen. If they're not moving, then it sends another webhook into the care workers, and then they can charge in and help them. I think this is why it doesn't exist today. I do not know. But again, this type of stuff isn't huge to put in. The prereq is it works better if you obviously put Meraki. You need that network. But most of these use Bluetooth to actually connect to them. So actually deploying them, it's pretty simplistic. Am I right?
Yeah, I'll add to that. So, the intelligent edge, the camera is really my area of expertise, actually. So, if you can see it, we can train the camera to do something. That's ultimately the goal. So we embed certain capabilities within the camera natively. So object detection, people or vehicle, and we have tracking engines built into the camera itself. But we also allow computer vision models, bespoke models, to be loaded onto the camera and run on the camera. So training the camera to understand a trip or a fall or aggressive behavior. We've got instances on the National Rail where we're detecting bicycles on escalators, prams next to the edge of platforms, baggage unattended. So providing we can train the model, load that model onto the camera, then we can detect and alert.
It goes on and on. There's so many user cases and there's so many things that actually can be used. I've just tried to grab a few of the ones that I think are particularly relevant, but like I say, this is one of those that I could talk about for hours and hours. And it's just kind of getting the idea of there's lots of user cases, there's lots of things you can do. And Cisco's got pretty much a sensor for everything. And then they've also got a software partner that can do the rest of it. So it's that thought-provoking side. So I've got Jay flagging me at the back, so let me just talk fast. So key takeaways. I think people's behaviours must be learned. It's almost going back to when we were looking at personas for people. You have to understand what the people are doing or what your customers are doing, and that's how you align this tech. Decision making should be data driven. I'm a big believer of that. It's making assumptions sometimes just doesn't work anymore. So being able to surface that data up, we're back to almost like Copilot, because if you can get the data to feed in, Copilot then can give you some direction on what you should be doing as an organisation. Workspace visits needs to have a purpose. I'm a big believer of that. I will not rack up to anywhere unless there's a real reason for me to do it. And having the right technology is key. Working at home, I suffer when I go in the office because I've got such a setup at home now that I am inefficient when I actually go into the office because of how the screen, everything is personalised to me. I've got a really big screen, love it. Got a couple of small ones. I've got different video conferencing suites, and everything that I have is to make me more productive and make me happier, and that's where I am at home. And that's me. That's our session done. If any of this sounds interesting and you want to look at it more, just book a consult with us and then we can come in and talk about the art of possible. And Tino's nodding because he's already heard all of this. Thank you very much.